In order to resist the marriage arranged by my father, I took a concubine who came from a humble family. Because he entered the princess's mansion, he was ridiculed for fawning on the powerful for 5 whole years. Later, righteous men rose up, and my father was driven out of power. When we met again, I was a dancer in the music bureau, and he was the most powerful prime minister in the court. I danced at the banquet to liven up the atmosphere, and by his side was the gentle and virtuous daughter of a new minister. Someone asked, "Master Liu is not getting married, but he is still thinking about that princess from the previous dynasty?" He raised his glass and sneered, "She is just a princess of the previous dynasty. What's there to miss?"
1.
After working in the Jiafangxi for 3 years, the makeup on my face became more and more vivid day by day. I originally thought that my life would be like this, performing in the mansions of various powerful people and living on meager rewards. I never expected that I would see Linzhou again. When I, wearing a thin gauze skirt, entered the main hall with the people from the Jiafangxi, he was already sitting in the first seat. The person closest to him was Shen Wanyun, the daughter of the Minister of Rights. I lowered my head in embarrassment, afraid that he would recognize me in such an occasion. When the song ended, the companions dispersed and poured wine for the distinguished guests present. Only no one dared to approach Linzhou. I found a young man from a distance, stood behind him, and tried my best to hide my presence. Yozhou's Mengsheng wine was once a special supply to the princess's mansion. What I love most is watching Linzhou brewing wine with his bare hands under the peach tree in the mansion. His fingers were white with distinct joints, like transparent jade, and they had a unique taste when paired with the light pink Mengsheng wine. 3 years pass and everything and everyone has changed. Now he sits in a high position, and I have become a dancer serving him. Someone was talking loudly at the table, and somehow the topic turned to Linzhou. I heard that Lord Liu was once a concubine in the princess's mansion in the previous dynasty, and now he has become the prime minister of the current dynasty. I wonder if you can adapt to the transformation from a sparrow to a phoenix. My hand that was pouring the wine paused slightly. Linzhou slowly picked up the wine cup and took a sip, ignoring him. The sarcastic person was unwilling to give up and said, "Lord Liu is almost 30 years old, but he is still reluctant to get married. Could it be that he is still thinking about the princess from the previous dynasty?" Although Linzhou still didn't respond, there was a hint of chill in his cold eyes. Seeing him like this, the man's tone became even sharper. "I'm afraid that Master Liu has been a concubine for too long, and no noble lady dares to marry him." There was a moment of silence at the table, with everyone holding their glasses in fear, not knowing what to do. After a while, Linzhou sneered, "She is just a princess of the previous dynasty. What's there to miss?"
2.
Lord Liu is an important official in the court, and His Majesty values him highly. How can a mere princess of the former dynasty be compared with Lord Liu? A voice as crisp as a silver bell rang out. It was Shen Wanyun who was standing beside him. "Prince Zhou must have drunk too much. He is talking nonsense now." She tactfully changed the subject, prompting everyone to agree with her. Yes, Lord Liu is a man of great talent and a senior official of the country. Many women in the capital have a crush on him. The princess of the previous dynasty was arrogant and extravagant. How could she be worthy of the brilliant Lord Liu? Prince Zhou is wrong. Prince Zhou's face froze. He concealed the jealousy in his eyes and apologized awkwardly. Miss Shen is right. I drank too much and said something wrong when I was drunk. Please don't blame me, Lord Liu. Everyone laughed and toasted each other, trying to move past the unpleasant topic. Although no one knew about it, I was still so embarrassed that my ears turned red and my hands moved in a panic. Pa. His sleeve accidentally brushed against the wine glass on the table, and the wine splashed onto the sleeve of a young man. Damn you, slut. You can't even pour a glass of wine. If your hands are useless, you might as well chop them off. The young man was furious and raised his hand to push me away. The big commotion attracted everyone's attention. My face was burning with embarrassment. I lowered my head into my sleeves and quickly apologized. My lord, please calm down. My lord, please calm down. but he refused to give in and kept insisting on teaching me a lesson. Suddenly, Linzhou's voice sounded behind him. The voice was as cold as jade, and he spoke word by word. Noisy. 3. His footsteps were getting closer. 1, 2, 3 times. The steps were gentle, but they dug into my heart like an axe. My body froze, and I remained kneeling, not daring to look up. Fortunately, Zhang Liling came from the backyard in time and apologized carefully with a smile. Please calm down, my lord. This girl has not been feeling well recently. I did not want to ruin your pleasure, so I allowed her to perform despite her illness. But who would have thought that something went wrong? Last month, the nobles in the palace gave us a batch of fine materials as a reward. The new clothes may have not been touched yet. It would be better for you to condescend to change your outer clothes so as not to get cold and hurt yourself if the clothes are stained with wine. As he said this, Zhang Liling turned to look at me, pretending to be displeased. You are such a tactless person. Why don't you go down and prepare new clothes for the master? I breathed a sigh of relief, lowered my head, carefully walked around Linzhou, and hurried away. Afterwards, Zhang Liling came to me and whispered comfort to me. Don't be sad. We in the Jiafangxi are of low status, and it is inevitable that people will look down on us. I had helped this Zhang Liling inadvertently before, so this time when I joined his team, he took good care of me. It's okay. I won't take it to heart. I smiled bitterly. Ever since the fall of the previous dynasty and the beginning of the Jiafangxi, the arrogant and conceited Princess Huayong had been dead. Now I am just a lowly dancer. What right do I have to feel ashamed and angry because of the sneers and ridicules of others? It's good that you can look at it in a positive light. The most senior official at the banquet today is Prime Minister Liu, who is personally appointed by His Majesty. I heard that he is a fickle person. We can't afford to offend him. I lowered my eyelashes and pinched my fingers in my sleeves until they turned white. Master Li Ling, can I not attend the performance later? I'm not feeling well, and it would be bad if something went wrong. Zhang Liling sighed, looked at me deeply, and then agreed. Then don't go. There's only one game left anyway. Thank you. As I watched Zhang Liling's figure disappear at the end of the corridor, my clenched palms were already wet. If we talk about whom this powerful Prime Minister Liu hates the most in the world, the dignitaries who persecuted his parents in the past would be the first, and I, Princess Huayong, would definitely be the second. Now that the powerful man is dead, I have become the person he most wants to kill. Who made me the princess of the previous dynasty, who took him as her lover and made him suffer humiliation.
4.
I had just reached the age of 15 at that time. My father received the marriage proposal from Marquis Wu and wanted to arrange a marriage between me and the Marquis Wu's son. You have to know that the stupid prince is a well-known playboy in the capital who indulges in eating, drinking, whoring, and gambling, and has all the 5 vices. I felt resentful, so before my father issued the decree to grant me marriage, I took the initiative to take a lover, thus ruining my own reputation. At that time, Linzhou was a scholar who went to Beijing to take the imperial examination. Although he had great literary talent and was expected to be the top scorer, his place was taken away by the powerful. He sought help everywhere, but to no avail. The powerful were annoyed that he did not know what was good for him and wanted to kill him to silence him, claiming that the case was a banditry. He managed to escape, but his parents were killed. It was raining heavily the day I met him. Linzhou was thrown into the street, wearing a patched robe and covered in blood. The bright red blood flowed down his jade-like brow, creating a breathtaking beauty. An idea suddenly occurred to me, so I dismounted and handed him the handkerchief. Are you a scholar taking an exam? The time for the imperial examination results to be announced has passed, but you have yet to leave. It seems that you have not found a way to pursue a career in government. Would you like to enter the princess's mansion and enjoy endless wealth and splendor in the future? Linzhou refused. I left with regret, but the more I looked back and compared myself with him, the more I felt that the young master of Wu Marquis' family was a piece of shit. In addition, I am the youngest daughter of the current queen. Even though I am not favored by my father, I still live a proud and unbridled life. Once you set your sights on a goal, you won't want to let go. So I asked my servants to find out about Linzhou and pretend to run into him by chance on the street every day. I watched Linzhou file a complaint all the way from the Dali Temple to the censorate, just asking for justice, but there was no way for him to appeal. It was not until 49 days after his parents were buried that he knocked on the door of the princess's mansion.
5.
In the end, the young man bowed to the corrupt world. I helped him bring his parents' murderers to justice. To this end, he asked his mother for help, then asked the crown prince, and then asked his father for help. I got scolded several times. But I don't care. I think I really like Linzhou, and I really want to help him. I thought my actions were salvation for him, but it wasn't until much later that I realized that forcing too much becomes a shackle. I could never melt Linzhou's heart. He never got close to me outside the princess's mansion. He was frugal in eating and dressing, and his monthly expenses were not even as much as those of an ordinary servant in the mansion. He also didn't like going out because once he did, he would be surrounded by sharp sarcasm. Look, it's him. A man of 7 feet tall has the audacity to be the princess's lover. A villain who is greedy for power is willing to sacrifice himself just to get a job. Until some people among the people were dissatisfied with the emperor's harsh rule and rose up in rebellion. The huge dynasty was like a hollow shell after decades of corrupt rule. Soon the imperial city was breached, and my father was killed. I went from being a high and mighty princess to a prisoner. On the last day in the princess's mansion, I said to Linzhou, "The rebels will soon attack the imperial city, and I have already found a way out for myself." Linzhou was slightly stunned, with something in his eyes that I couldn't understand. "What about me?" I was stunned for a moment, then smiled. "Of course, I can go wherever I want to go." Linzhou left. I thought it was better for her to leave than to be cut into pieces with a princess from the previous dynasty like me. A way out? I lied to him. My mother, brothers, and sisters are all here. I have nowhere to escape. The rebels invaded the imperial city and proclaimed themselves emperor, and I was sent to the Jiafangxi. After 3 years, I didn't expect to see Linzhou again. His figure is 3 points taller than when he was younger, and his temperament is more dignified. From the moment I met Linzhou, I knew he was no ordinary fish. As expected, he became an important official in the new dynasty, and so many noble ladies admired him. This is actually quite good. I bit my lip hard, letting the pain suppress the bitterness in my heart. The banquet was over, and I dragged my tired body to the end of the line. His footing was unstable, and the musical instruments and hairpins in his hands fell to the ground. Rubbing my aching brows, I squatted down and picked up the items one by one. Suddenly, a bony hand holding a hairpin was handed to me. "Do you need help?" The familiar male voice sounded again, and I froze in place. 6. The team from the Jiafangxi had disappeared, and only Linzhou and I were left at the corner. Although I was on a wide road, I felt so depressed that I couldn't breathe. "Feeling unwell?" After a while, he suddenly asked. I was stunned for a second, then took the hairpin and nodded hesitantly. "My lord, I practiced dancing for a long time these days and didn't get enough rest." Linzhou stood up and looked down at me. "I heard that Zhang Liling from the Jiaofeng Bureau is a kind-hearted person. He should treat you well on weekdays, right?" "Zhang Liling is really kind-hearted and treats us very well." I picked up the things that fell on the ground and nodded respectfully in response to his words. I didn't dare to guess whether Linzhou recognized me. If he didn't tell me, I would just pretend I knew nothing. The dance performed by the Jiafangxi today looked quite good. Wanyun is also very good at it. I wonder how you compare to her.
Wanyun?
My heart trembled, and I instantly thought of the woman who was with him today. I opened my mouth, but my throat was extremely bitter. "How can we, who are of lowly status, compare ourselves with you, my lord? Your praise is too much. The Music Bureau has a lot of things to finish. If you have nothing else to do, I will leave first." I had no intention of getting entangled with him, so I gathered the things in my arms and prepared to leave. Unexpectedly, Linzhou blocked my way and stopped me. He pressed forward step by step, his eyes slightly angry, but a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Why, you don't recognize me. Your Highness.
7.
Linzhou pinched my chin tightly, forcing me to look up at him. When you chased me away, I thought you were going to live a good life. Xiaomuqing, you are really amazing. My face turned pale, and I subconsciously clutched the corner of my clothes. Linzhou's hands became even stronger, and the words seemed to be squeezed out from between his teeth. Why are you hiding? Are you afraid that your princess's dignity will be crushed in front of me? I am speechless. Yes, I'm afraid. The pride in my bones was quietly playing tricks on me, and I didn't want him to see me in such a miserable state. Lord Lu. A clear female voice broke our confrontation. Shen Wanyun walked slowly over from the other end with her maid. Linzhou released the hand that was pinching my chin and put his hands behind his back. Shen Wanyun has beautiful facial features and a pair of clear and bright eyes. She came close to Linzhou and looked at me tenderly. This girl looks very familiar. Could she be an old acquaintance of Lord Lu? We've only met a few times, so we're not that familiar with each other. I said lightly. That's because I'm short-sighted. I think the girl looks like someone. Shen Wanyun covered her mouth and chuckled, but she could not hide the contempt in her eyes. After working in the Jiafangxi for so many years, I have long been accustomed to this kind of look. But in front of Linzhou, it is inevitable to feel a little uncomfortable. I heard that the monthly salary of the girls in the Jiafangxi is very low. It is fate that we meet today. If you have any difficulties, you may as well talk to me and Lord Lu. I smiled bitterly and looked up at the two people opposite me who looked very well matched. No need. In a few days I will leave the Jiafangxi and get married.
8.
I met Duan Jingchuan some time ago. He is an old friend of mine when I was a princess. It can be said that we have a fateful relationship where we met each other through fighting. At that time, I was dissatisfied with the dandy prince my father had assigned to me, and he was annoyed by the noble ladies his mother had introduced to him. We both ran away from home at the same time, but unexpectedly our carriages collided in a narrow alley. I was anxious to get rid of the guards who were chasing me, and he was afraid of the servants who were chasing him closely. No one was willing to give in, and in the end they were both captured. Later I found out that he was much worse off than I was. I just hate that playboy, but he doesn't like women at all. Poor him. He is the only child in the family, so he can only keep his love for men deep in his heart. At the beginning of this spring, I dressed up beautifully to perform, and I don't know how he recognized me. He actually proposed to marry me. Anyway, I don't want to marry another woman, so why don't you just marry me and live with me? I knew he wanted to help me, but he still had some concerns. But now it seems that I have to thank him for his foresight, which saved me a lot of trouble. After saying that, I didn't care about etiquette and ran away. I just felt the burning gaze behind me, as if it wanted to burn through me. Early the next morning, Zhang Liling gathered everyone together. I stood at the end of the line, listening to the gossip of the women around me. I heard that there will be foreign envoys coming to the capital next month. His Majesty attaches great importance to it and ordered our Jiaofeng division to arrange new programs. They even specially arranged for an adult to supervise us. I heard that this adult holds a high position. Oh, which gentleman is willing to put aside his pride and come to our Jiafangxi? The more I listened, the more I felt something was not right, and I began to feel vaguely uneasy. Lord Lu has arrived. The noise on the field stopped abruptly, and everyone knelt on the ground in salute. I looked up quietly and met Linzhou's slightly raised peach blossom eyes. 9. I was absent-minded during the whole day of dancing practice. After dinner, I returned to the inner hall to pick up the instrument I had dropped. When passing by the courtyard where Linzhou was staying temporarily, a big hand suddenly appeared and grabbed his arm. With an effort, he was pulled in. Linzhou pressed me down on the stone table in the yard and leaned over, with his body so close to me that there was almost no gap. The breath he exhaled touched my neck and ears, causing me to shiver. Sir, respect yourself. I wanted to push it away, but I had no strength. Linzhou's big hands wandered around my waist, bringing waves of numbness. Self-respect? Huh. Didn't the princess like you very much at first? His voice was low and hoarse, filled with uncontrollable lust. My cheeks turned red when I recalled the time when I was drunk and clamored to try all the positions in the album with Linzhou. At that time, I was so willful and reckless. So now, does he want to take revenge one by one? I did offend the adults in the past. I murmured weakly. The past? Xiao Muqing, what do you think of me? The moonlight spread, outlining his taut silhouette. Sir. Zhang Liling's voice came from outside the door, breaking our stalemate. Sir, you have condescended to come to our Jiaofeng division. Is there anything I can do to assist you? Linzhou ignored my nervousness and gently brushed my slightly trembling lips with his fingertips. He curled his thin lips and said to Zhang Liling outside the door, Your Majesty has ordered me to supervise the reception of foreign ministers. I am not familiar with the internal situation of the Jiaofeng Bureau. Why don't you send someone to assist me? That's right. I am not talented, but I am willing to lend a helping hand to you. Zhang Liling is very busy. How can I bear to tire you out? The girl standing at the end of the team today is pretty good in my opinion. She's not a good dancer, so it's a good opportunity for her to help. My whole body froze. This. Zhang Liling hesitated, but finally agreed. Then let Yunqing assist you. Yunqing. He pronounced these two words slowly and looked at me meaningfully. Zhang Liling said goodbye and left. I took advantage of Linzhou's unpreparedness and pushed him away in panic. Linzhou frowned in displeasure, but had already returned to his usual cold and calm demeanor, as if what had just happened was just an illusion of mine. From today on, you will be following me in my duties. Why don't you familiarize yourself with the job in advance? Of course, I am willing to serve you, sir. It is late today, so I will not disturb you from resting. I had no right to refuse, so I just made up an excuse to avoid it temporarily. Don't call yourself a slave in front of me anymore. Why? No reason. It just doesn't sound good. I don't like it. Linzhou got angry again for some reason and glared at me fiercely. I was terrified and somewhat confused. He wasn't always angry before, but for some reason this time when we met again, he was always finding fault with me. I can't understand it, but life and death are determined by fate, and wealth and honor are determined by God. If Linzhou really wants to take revenge on me, I will not be able to escape. 10. I tossed and turned all night and couldn't fall asleep. As soon as it was dawn, she wanted to go out with the handkerchief she had embroidered before, but she met Linzhou again. I had no choice but to tell them where I was going. I received an order from an embroidery shop and embroidered handkerchiefs to sell. Hearing this, he was a little surprised and hesitated to speak. Yes, the former Princess Huayang was uneducated and unskilled, and was well known in the capital. She is not good at playing the piano, chess, calligraphy, painting, needlework, or etiquette. Apart from having a good family background, I am in no way comparable to the ladies from wealthy families. After I turned against the norm and took a lover, my reputation plummeted. To be honest, I'm not even as good as Linzhou in embroidery. When my mother was still alive, she found a nanny to teach me needlework in order to correct my reputation as an unlearned person. I was detained in the mansion and practiced with an embroidery needle every day. Maybe I just didn't have the talent for it. Even after poking holes in my 10 fingers and leaving blood, I still couldn't embroider anything decent. However, I begged Linzhou for help twice, and the jade-like young man was able to pinch the needle quite well. At that time, I was leaning on the soft couch in the room, looking at his serious profile, complaining for no reason. What's the point of learning embroidery? I'm a princess. Why do I need to learn this to make things for others? If you have any clothes or accessories you like, I will find the best embroiderer to make them for you. It's better than wasting time here. Linzhou paused with the needle in his hand and looked up at me. There was some emotion in his deep eyes that I couldn't understand. I didn't understand what she meant at the time, but later I learned that Linzhou's studies were supported by his mother, who earned a little money by sewing. As a princess who is ignorant of the world, I didn't understand the importance of every stitch and thread until I was at the end of my rope. I ignored Linzhou and walked around him to the embroidery workshop. The owner of the embroidery shop was a stingy girl, but at least the price she gave was reasonable. Just as he was about to take the copper coin, Shen Wanyun's voice rang out. They even dare to accept this kind of handkerchief. Are they not afraid of ruining their reputation? Forget it. Let's go shopping somewhere else. She picked up my embroidered handkerchief with 2 fingers in disgust, sneered, threw it aside, and was about to leave. Miss Shen, please stay. The shopkeeper hurried forward, bowed his head, and apologized to Shen Wanyun in a flattering manner, then gave me a cold look. I don't want this rubbish you embroidered. Get out of here now. I clenched my palms, thought of my little niece who was still waiting for me to buy medicine to save her life, and smiled ingratiatingly. Madame Zhao, this embroidered handkerchief of mine is much better than the previous ones, and you always charge only 3 cents. I'm waiting for the money to save my life. Please be so kind as to accept it. When the imperial city was breached, the 3rd prince's wife gave birth to a daughter despite her illness, and I was entrusted with the care of the orphan before his death. Now, among the royal children, only my little niece, who is less than 4 years old, and I are left to depend on each other. Hey, you bastard, you really don't know what's good for you. I said I won't accept it, and I won't accept it. The shopkeeper glanced at Shen Wanyun's face and picked up a piece of wood and threw it at me. I tilted my head and didn't wait to feel the pain of a heavy object falling on me. I looked up and found Linzhou standing in front of me. Master Lu? Master Lu. Shen Wanyun's originally smug expression suddenly turned ugly. I was also a little surprised that Linzhou followed me all the way. He pursed his lips tightly. His aura was so gloomy and terrifying that the shopkeeper shrank back unconsciously. Come with me. 11. Linzhou took me to his mansion. With red walls, green tiles, a tall gate, and a large courtyard, it is no less beautiful than the princess's mansion in the past. The embarrassment in my heart became even worse, coupled with the anxiety that everything was not going well. In front of the mansion gate, I abruptly pulled back his hand and spoke in a cold tone. I am in a hurry to sell my embroidery, so I won't waste your time. After saying that, he was about to leave. Linzhou turned his head to look at me. His eyes were red. I told you not to call yourself a slave anymore. I'll buy your handkerchief. Come in with me. As expected of a popular and powerful official, every time he made a move, he would get an ingot of gold. Crossing the corridor to the backyard, the rockery and flowing water encountered along the way are exactly the same as those in the princess's mansion. I suddenly don't understand. What does Linzhou want to do? I really hate living in such fear and suspicion, so I'd rather just talk it out. Linzhou, I know you hate me for taking you as my concubine and letting you suffer humiliation. Now I have become a lowly dancer in the Jiaofeng Bureau. If you have any dissatisfaction, you can just come straight to me. There is really no need to beat around the bush. Linzhou clenched his fists, his eyes were gloomy, and suddenly he laughed at himself. Xiao Muqing, are you really stupid? Don't you understand why I do this? I pursed my lips and said, no matter what happened in the past, we should not have any contact now. A new minister's daughter, like Shen Wanyun, is the right one for you now. Linzhou was so angry that he laughed. He reached out and pulled me into his room and closed the door. His tall stature imprisoned me, making me unable to move. I was trapped in a small space. My 5 senses were dulled, and I could only feel the scalding temperature of his skin pressing against me. I have nothing to do with Shen Wanyun. She is just a pawn placed by someone else next to me. What about you, princess? Your marriage is also fake, right? I'm really getting married. Then why are you still carrying the jade token that I carved for you? Does your future husband know about our past relationship? There was anger burning in his eyes, but his hands were extremely intimate. His fingers just brushed across my cheek and landed on my collarbone, just like that night.
12.
I was startled, and the jade pendant that had been hanging on my chest for several years suddenly became extremely burning. This is the only thing I have left after the palace coup. It is a gift from Linzhou. It was my birthday then. In fact, it's no big deal. I celebrate my birthday almost the same every year, setting up several tables of banquets in the house, and accepting all kinds of rare treasures sent by my mother and my brothers and sisters. It just happened that year that I met an engaged couple giving each other gifts on the street. They shyly took out the things they had carefully prepared for each other. Although they looked worthless, they both felt extremely satisfied. I suddenly thought of Linzhou. He had been with me in the princess's mansion for a long time, but we had never even given each other proper gifts. With such a little thought in mind, I asked my servants to inform Linzhou of my birthday in advance, looking forward to the gift he would send. On the day of the birthday party, I played with my brothers and sisters until late at night. I was drunk and was helped back to my room by the maid to rest. I held my head in my hands, feeling dizzy and extremely aggrieved. I waited quietly for the whole day, but his gift still didn't arrive until late at night. I thought he had forgotten, but Linzhou came to my bedroom just before midnight and carefully hung a jade pendant around my neck. I was annoyed that he came late, so I turned my back and ignored him. I vaguely heard what he said before he fell asleep, but when I asked him later, he refused to say anything. Until today, I still talk about this jade plaque. I have dreamt of that 1 in 10 million possibility many times. But after waking up, I didn't have the courage to think about it again. Even the princess, who was once high and mighty, could not make Linzhou's heart move, let alone the lowly dancer now. I hate the way I look now. To live a miserable life, to be humble and cowardly. Suddenly, I couldn't control myself, and tears started to fall. Linzhou's aura suddenly relaxed, and he became a little flustered. He wiped away the tears from the corners of my eyes with his hands. That look reminded me of the young man in the princess's mansion, when he made me unhappy and then tried to make peace with me. My sobbing got worse, until there was a noise outside, and Linzhou's door was broken open by someone. Duan Jingchuan dragged me behind him in the light, ignoring the obstruction of the Lu mansion servants, and asked gloomily, "Master Lu, have you followed the example of those playboys and are now seizing women by force?" 13. Duan Jingchuan forcefully took me out of the Lu mansion. It was not until he had walked several miles that he bent down, held onto a tree beside him, and gasped for breath. "This Linzhou is becoming more and more powerful now. When he was your lover in the princess's mansion, he was still quiet and peaceful. How come he has become such a devil now? By the way, Ching, he didn't attack you, did he? I guessed he had bad intentions, so I rushed over to save you." Duan Jingchuan was so nervous that his hands were shaking, and he looked like he was keeping a secret from Linzhou. At this moment, I regained my sanity, and the tears in the corners of my eyes turned into faint red marks. "It's okay, Linzhou. He didn't hurt me, he just wanted to catch up with me." Duan Jingchuan's expression suddenly turned strange. That's right. In the past, Linzhou and I were a princess and her lover, and now he and I are a dancer and a powerful official. It doesn't seem like a relationship that can be reminisced peacefully. Duan Jingchuan held his chin and speculated, could it be that Linzhou is dissatisfied with the fact that he was once your mistress and now wants to turn you around and make you his concubine? My good friend has always had an amazing imagination. When he makes guesses about things, they always go off the beaten track. I shook my head to stop his crazy thoughts. "Jingchuan, you think too much. What relationship can there be between us given our current identities? He is the prime minister of the dynasty. There are so many eyes watching him. It is not a good thing for him to easily get involved with a dancer like me who has a different status." These words are not only spoken to Jingchuan, but also a warning to myself. Don't think about things that don't belong to you, and try your best to live your current life well. Duan Jingchuan was still a little worried, so he decided, "Then let's move our wedding date forward to avoid any complications." I agreed. I have been feeling a little nervous these days. Perhaps after I get married and leave the Jiaofeng Bureau and Linzhou, everything will return to peace. But I didn't expect that Shen Wanyun would come to see me. 14. Linzhou said that Shen Wanyun was a pawn planted by the political parties in the court next to him. This kind of person is the most difficult to deal with. If you touch her, it will inevitably arouse the vigilance of your political opponents. But I could see at the banquet that day that Shen Wanyun had fallen in love with Linzhou. Faced with a wavering chess piece, A smart person naturally knows what to do. Miss Yunqing, we meet again. She was wearing a dark purple brocade dress and nodded at me gracefully, but suddenly changed her words as if she remembered something. Oh, no, it should be Princess Huayang. In the past, he took Lord Liu as his concubine, causing him to be humiliated and ridiculed for several years. Now that he has risen to a high position on his own, does your highness want to drag him down and cause his majesty to be suspicious? Shen Wanyun's tone was gentle, but her words were sharp and harsh.
But I have to admit that she is right.
Once he is linked to me, a princess of the previous dynasty, Linzhou's political enemies will definitely use this as an excuse to deal with him. Miss Shen, you're joking. I am just a dancer now, and I will be married soon. How can I be related to Lord Liu? Seeing that I was not moved, Shen Wanyun got angry and said, Your Highness, there is no need to say these polite words to me here. Master Liu has never married in these years. Everyone who knows it will say that it is because of you. Since you know that you are of low status now, you should stay away from Lord Liu and stop harming him. Hurt him? I laughed. It was clearly them who came to me again, and now they tell me not to have any wild thoughts. They were quite happy directing and acting in this drama themselves. Since Miss Shen is determined to get Linzhou, why did she go to the trouble of warning me? I said I was going to get married, so I'm going to get married. Other things have nothing to do with me. Shen Wanyun was furious, but she endured it again and again. When the new emperor ascended the throne, Linzhou knelt in front of the palace gate for 3 days in order to save your life, and only then did he win the promise of not killing you. Otherwise, how do you think you could have stayed in the Jiafangxi safely for 3 years? You are really hard-hearted. What? I was stunned and turned to look at her in disbelief. Shen Wanyun looked at my expression and felt a little upset. You are a disaster. Lord Liu has already given up his fame and position for you. This time, I beg you not to harm him again. After saying this, she left with her maid. I stood there in a daze, my mind in a mess. I thought Linzhou was somewhat resentful of the humiliation he suffered as a concubine. After all, I heard what he said with my own ears on the day the city was captured. If you don't have any choice, who would want to be a nameless and statusless concubine? So later, I let Linzhou leave. 15. There were so many reasons that I couldn't figure out, so I just hid myself like an ostrich. If I don't see Linzhou, I won't have to worry about these things. But after receiving the envoys, I still met Linzhou at the celebration banquet that day. He was dressed in black, had a face as beautiful as jade, and was half leaning on the back of a chair with an unclear expression. After many years, Linzhou has become mature and restrained, but he still maintains the feeling that made my heart beat in the beginning. I lower my head and found a corner, hoping to sneak out of the celebration party. Everyone was very excited, and I was swept up in the excitement and drank a lot of wine. The drunken feeling made my heart beat faster, and my body unconsciously felt hot. I staggered to the pavilion and sat down for a while. I don't know when Linzhou followed me, his shadow flickering. I forced myself to open my eyes, and his figure was vaguely reflected in my eyes. After venting my long-term depression, I cried without caring about my image, and while crying I pulled at the corner of his clothes to vent my anger. Linzhou, I hate you. I lay on his back, lowered my head and bit his neck hard, crying incoherently. I had gotten used to falling from the clouds. It doesn't matter if you are looked down upon, or if you are humble. So, what if no one loves me? I thought I was strong enough, but it turns out that it is not. From the beginning, I was able to survive because of him.
Why?
Don't you dislike me? Why does it have to stir up such a huge wave when I have already calmed down? I cried for a long time and vaguely remember Linzhou carrying me on his back. My head was in a mess, and I said whatever came to my mind, my tears streaming down on Linzhou's clothes. His steps were steady, and after a while, he said in a muffled voice, Your fiancé is not good. I am better than him. Linzhou's back was warm, and I fell asleep on his shoulder. The last scene I saw was him putting me on the bed and taking off my shoes for me. Mu Qing, will you marry me? I don't want anything but you. Let's leave together, okay? I can't remember what I answered. When I woke up the next day, Linzhou was lying next to me. His chest was bare, and his long arms held me tightly in his arms. I was stunned.
16.
Linzhou got up calmly and helped me straighten my messy hair. Wake up. I asked the kitchen to prepare your favorite breakfast. Let's go eat together. I responded in confusion, glancing over his solid chest before my head snapped back to reality. I. Linzhou said, "Oh, we did sleep together last night. You have to be responsible for me. It's not like I haven't slept with him before. I'm getting married soon. Then quit and marry me. Duan Jingchuan is a homosexual, and he deceived you into marriage. He is a bad person." Seeing that I was feeling guilty and short of breath, Linzhou narrowed his eyes. "You didn't know about Duan Jingchuan a long time ago, did you?" I laughed it off and talked about other things. Fortunately, Linzhou didn't delve into it further. At the dinner table, he was still the same as before. Everything I like is prepared and served to me at the most suitable temperature. I wanted to say that I am no longer so particular now, but when I met his serious gaze, I swallowed the words back. Later, I found Duan Jingchuan and canceled the engagement. He asked me why I suddenly didn't want to get married anymore. I said helplessly, "I slept with Linzhou, and he said that if I married you again, he would spread your homosexuality all over the capital and have you kicked out of the house." Duan Jingchuan was silent and touched his arm with lingering fear. "He really has good intentions for you. Ching, why don't you just give in?" 17. There was an unknown rumor in the capital that Prime Minister Linzhou was in collusion with the princess of the previous dynasty. The fact that Linzhou was once my lover was also widely spread, and everyone knew about it. The people were talking about it, and the court submitted memorials criticizing Linzhou one after another. Linzhou did not come from a high-class family and was not close to other parties. Finally, the emperor could not bear the pressure from his court officials and arrested Linzhou. He was sent back home covered in blood. I rushed over when I heard the news, but was stopped outside the door by Shen Wanyun, who came with me. "Xiaomuqing, I told you to stay away from him, but you didn't listen. Now you've made Lord Lu look like this. Are you satisfied?" Her eyes were full of resentment, and she looked like she wanted to strangle me to death. But I find it very strange. The number of people who know about the relationship between Linzhou and I can be counted on one hand. Just after the confrontation with Shen Wanyun, the story of Linzhou and me spread throughout the capital. It was easy to tell who was responsible. "Miss Shen, you don't have to look so hateful. Aren't these things you're doing?" Shen Wanyun was stunned. "What nonsense are you talking about? What does this have to do with me?" "Stop quibbling. It is said that the courtier who led the charge against Linzhou was the left prime minister, and your father, Miss Shen, is from the left prime minister's faction. Aren't you Miss Shen, who knows the relationship between me and Linzhou and my current status, and has the power in the court to harm Linzhou?" Shen Wanyun became angry and raised her voice. "What are you talking about? I'm here to save Lord Lu. Now, as long as Lord Lu marries me, the rumors in the capital will naturally be broken. Save him." I looked at Shen Wanyun coldly. Although I have been in the Jiafangxi for 3 years, I am not an ignorant fool. When the old emperor was in power, wasn't it your uncle who caused the death of Linzhou's parents and ruined his career? How come Miss Shen has completely forgotten the past, and even your deceased uncle now that the new dynasty is approaching? Her face turned pale, and she looked at the closed door behind her in panic. Before he finished speaking, the door opened. Linzhou's face was pale, and he looked at Shen Wanyun with gloomy eyes. 18. She was devastated and ran away with a look of loss on her face. I carefully scanned Linzhou's body and asked him, "Is your injury okay?" Linzhou shook his head, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. I turned my head away awkwardly. "Aren't you the prime minister? How dare you let others bully you so easily?" Linzhou smiled and took my hand and held it in his palm. "Don't worry, princess. I won't be bullied by anyone except you. You're already injured like this, And you still have the nerve to say that. They will not get away with it. Your Majesty has evidence of their corruption and power-seeking and will take action soon. Not bad. I resigned from my post. I helped you change your citizenship. As Linzhou kept on talking, my panicked heart slowly calmed down and tears began to flow out of my eyes uncontrollably again. What a loser. I've been crying since I met him. Linzhou helped me wipe away my tears and held me tightly in his arms. I'm sorry for making you cry again. I heard that Jiangnan has nice scenery. If you're willing, we can move there with our niece. I felt his skin trembling with tension under my palm. It seemed as if the handsome and gentle young man in blue clothes standing under the peach tree that year had returned again. Spring is in the air, and it's time to brew new Mengxing wine. I held his fingers with my backhand and smiled. Okay, I want to drink the wine you cooked. End of text. Extra Linzhou. 1. Mu Qing always thought that she and I first met on a long street on a rainy day. Actually, no, I've seen her a long time ago. At that time, I had just arrived in the capital, and my old clothes made me look out of place, like a beggar. She rode past me on horseback, her red dress fluttering and her beautiful smile. The sunlight was blinding, and somehow this scene was engraved in my heart. I liked her. I fell in love with a princess. Looking back, I just feel ridiculous. She was born noble, wearing silk and satin, and using gold and jade. But I am just the son of a tenant farmer. Later, the fame and honor I had earned through hard study was noticed by the eldest son of Earl Huan. The young man's blood, filled with indignation, turned cold in front of his parents' corpses. I went to many places in a daze, Dali Temple and Censorate, until I was violently driven away by government officials countless times, lying on the long street covered in blood.
2.
I think there's nothing wrong with dying like this. But I didn't expect to see her again. Would you like to follow me into the princess's palace? The pair of lively eyes swept across my face and then said, If you enter my house and become my concubine, you will enjoy endless wealth and glory in the future.
A concubine?
I was stunned, and there was a constant buzzing in my ears. I rejected her with the last bit of pride I had left, but bent down awkwardly the moment I stepped into the alley, like a pitiful stray dog. It was not until the 49th day after my parents' death, when Huai'anbu's son became the new top scholar and rode a horse through the streets, that I knocked on her door. She was very happy and said with a smile that I finally figured it out. I looked into her eyes and a small smile appeared on my lips. Yeah, I figured it out. The world is unfair. Why should I force myself to hold on and give the only sweetness I have to others? 3. On the third day after entering the princess's mansion, she took the initiative to run around for my affairs and was even detained by the emperor at the palace gate and forced to kneel as punishment. When I met her, she looked haggard, but she still comforted me nonchalantly. Once you enter the princess's mansion, you are mine. I will definitely seek justice for you. I cover my chest and manage to suppress my emotions. I have a bad reputation in the imperial city, but I know it and don't really mind it. But she couldn't help getting angry and kept shouting that she wanted to teach them a lesson. I didn't tell her that I didn't care. I just liked to see her feeling distressed and worried about me. The day before the imperial city was breached, she came to see me and said she wanted to break up with me. I suppressed my anger and asked her what she would do in the future. She said she had found a way out. Idiot, don't you think I understand? Her face was filled with despair, and it was clear that she was going to die. But how can I bear to do that? So this time, it's my turn to find a way out for her. 4. I made a deal with the new emperor and kept Mu Qing. He secretly paved the way for her and placed her in the Jiafengxi. I originally wanted to take her away after settling everything, but I didn't expect to meet her at the party. I clenched my wine glass and watched her carefully move away from me, my heart aching. She accidentally spilled the wine in the glass and knelt on the ground in panic to apologize. The anger in my chest seemed to be about to explode, and I wanted to draw my knife and kill the idiot who was clamoring to punish her. I told myself to wait a little longer, but my body appeared in front of her uncontrollably. I helped her pick up the hairpin, but she pretended not to know me and told me that she was going to get married. I have known Duan Jingchuan for a long time. I hated him when I was in the princess's mansion. I didn't expect he would be so bold as to marry my princess. I started to find all kinds of excuses to appear in front of her. I didn't want to wait any longer, and there was no way I could let her marry someone else no matter what. She is my princess and I am hers, so there will never be a third person between us in this life. I quickened my movements and got the new emperor what he wanted. He also used Shen Wanyun to spread the news in the capital, letting the secrets of the current prime minister and the princess of the previous dynasty spread everywhere. Blocked the new emperor's way to keep me. The new emperor waved his hand and punished me with a stick in the court, saying that I was crazy and had fallen in love with a woman to such an extent. I bowed respectfully for the last time and left. In fact, this little beating was not serious, but I childishly pretended to be seriously injured and sent someone to pass on the news to her. I heard her scolding Shen Wanyun harshly and curled up the corners of my mouth secretly.